Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and before I go on, let me give a few shout outs. Shout out to my main man, Matt Coley. He's back up here on YouTube. Get over to his channel, like, share, and subscribe to his videos. The name of his channel is Big Body Productions. Shout out to Q North Star. Shout out to my main man, Hostray. Shout out to Sean James. Shout out to another YouTuber. His name is Q North Star from Albany, New York. And also, shout out to another YouTuber. He doesn't make YouTube videos anymore, but he does come around from time to time. And that's my main man, Guy King from Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, this evening's video, I'm going to talk about a modern Christian woman. So tonight's video is today's modern day Christian woman has been indoctrinated by sin. The modern day Christian woman has been indoctrinated by sin. Now, before I go on, I'm not talking about all Christian women. But what I do see out here are a number of women, particularly African American women, who love to hide under the guise of church. Let me tell you something. It's not that hard to bump a black woman from church. All you need to do is wear a nice suit, drive a nice car, you speak fluently, and you can fuck a number of these Christian black women. In fact, a number of these Christian black women are your biggest whores out there. They're your biggest feminists, and they believe in their pastor. Believe it or not, I call a pastor the pimp in the pulpit, because if you think about it, this black pastor, when it comes to disrespecting black women or black women, he's disrespecting black women. Now, are there white pastors who do the same thing? Yes, there are, but I am in the African American community. But when it comes to Christian women, period, whether they're Latino, whether they're white, many of them who have been raised in this American system, they're indoctrinated by feminism too. Now, feminism is a form of Marxism. And there is no difference between the black pastor and black women when it comes to redistribution of wealth. Because the black pastor gets his money from the congregation. And the congregation is full of women and, of course, some gay men who are your choir directors and musicians. And this is the problem I have with Christian women. They have this attitude that they are self-righteous, they're judgmental, and they think they're better than everybody else. But yet, if you look at their background, they slept with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and some of them even slept with the preacher. Now, if you look at this black pastor out there, this black pastor is the one who slept with some of these modern day women's grandmother, aunts, sisters, heck, even some of them who were around Bishop Eddie Long. And I'm talking about the men. He slept with Bishop Eddie Long. And when it comes to religion, religion was put in place to control the masses. But this is what a number of Christian women do not understand. See, believing in God is not about going to church. In fact, there's nothing in the Bible that states anything about going to church. It talks about assembly. That's what the real church is. This is why I say church is in the heart. But you have a number of these women out here, particularly African American women, who will not allow you to talk about their pastor. And if you do talk about their pastor, then there is going to be a problem. Well, the problem is the black pastor and the African American women are both failures, because this black pastor doesn't encourage anything about families. If he did, you'd see more men going to church, more heterosexual men. But this black pastor, he's the problem because all he wants is money, and he gets money from his congregation. Heck, there are churches that have ATM machines inside of them. Now, I know you need money to run the church, but religion is supposed to be about God. It's not supposed to be about worshiping a human being. And one of the biggest problems I have with these Christian women is that this so-called simp man worships that Christian woman who worships that pastor. And when you talk about that pastor, then you talk about the black woman. Well, on my channel, I'm going to call out the black woman and the black preacher, and I'm going to call out other races of women, because from my humble opinion, Christianity is flawed. When we talk about these holidays like Valentine's Day, like Christmas, Easter, they're all pagan holidays. When you talk about a number of these religions, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, they're all man-made religions. Look at Constantine. That's where the Constitution came from, Constantine. But when it comes to this African-American Christian woman, she loves to hide under the guise of church. She'll tell you she's a reborn-again Christian. And when she goes out with a guy, she says, well, I want to get to know the guy. There's nothing wrong with getting to know the guy, but she still expects the guy to wine and dine her. But a number of these Christian women, even though they're single mothers themselves, even though they've had a background, they've monkey branched, they've swung from dick to dick to dick to dick, they still feel that they are righteous. And after they stop having sex, they feel again that they're reborn. But at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a reborn again version. Once that cherry is popped, it's gone. But a number of these African American women, and of course you have some Latinas and some white women, they have this fetish with God, but they don't practice God's principles. You see, if you're going to believe in God, you can read the Bible day in and day out, and there are many versions of the Bible. But when it comes to the African American Christian woman, many of them still possess the attitude. In fact, shout out to Minister Jack, because he's doing a piece on mate. It's men against transgender energy. I know exactly what he meant by that title. And it's not to go at actual transgenders, but it's to go after masculine African American women. And do you know, you have a number of these African American women who go to church, who are self-righteous. These are the ones who are acting like men as well. The only difference between them and somebody who lives in the hood, and some of these African American women do live in the hood as well, but they love to hide their innocence under that fruit bucket that they wear on their head, and that dress every day that they wear around the house. I'm talking about the ones who try to get into religion, or they're wanting to be knowledgeable about religion when they're not. They're just being told what the preacher tells them. Now again, I'm not putting down individuals who go to church. But when it comes to a number of these Christian women, they're not what you think. In fact, from my experience, most of the trouble I've had with women have been Christian women, and they've been Christian African American women. A number of them don't listen. They have the feminist mindset. A number of them have the Democratic Party mindset. A number of them believe in a lot of entertainment, spending money. A number of them will tell you that they're religious, but at the end of the day, they're not religious, because you look at the type of kids that a number of these women are raising. They're raising kids who don't want to leave home. They're raising disrespectful kids. They're raising children to whom they don't give any responsibilities to. In other words, they allow the children to live home free. They're afraid of their children. I'm not saying all of them are, but a number of them are afraid of their children because they want their children to like them. And if you look at a number of Christian women, one thing they don't practice is hierarchy. Hierarchy is supposed to be about God, man, woman, and child. Well, if you look at the African American community, one of the big failures is that black church. And that black church involves that black pastor. And again, you don't hear the hoteps calling out that black pastor, but shout out to Deception Stoppers, Omen Osiris. If you want somebody to go to for child support, he will get you the knowledge that you need to understand the child support issues. So please go to Omen Osiris, Deception Stoppers. Now, back to the topic. When it comes to this African American, white, or Latino woman who are involved in church, they have this mindset that they're above you. They think you're not saved. They think they're saved. They think you're the sinner and they're holy. The problem with a lot of these church women is that their holier than thou attitude makes them narcissistic, have attitude problems. Again, I just mentioned hierarchy. They have a feminist mindset. Many of them talk about fornication, but they fornicate as well. But they tell you about fornication because you're not the one who goes to church. Many of them worship the preacher. Many of them don't read the Bible. They'll take certain verses from the Bible and use it as an excuse to do what they want to do. And many of these Christians, they're fake. This is why I don't believe in church. I didn't say I didn't believe in God, but if that church was so great, how come these Christian women don't know anything about parenting, family, marriage, dating? How come these Christian women hide under church? Because if they grew up in the church and they're still in church, how come they have a number of problems? How come their children have problems? Because Christian women get divorced just like non-Christian women. Christian women go to work just like non-Christian women. But when it comes to these Christian women, they have this attitude that they are above the rest. And they don't want you talking about their pastor. But if their pastor was so good, the pastor would be teaching them something. And in the black community, you have a lot of hoteps. They don't want to go after this pastor. And your B1s, they don't want to go after this pastor. Because if they go after the black pastor, then they're going after black women. Bottom line, you got to call them all out. Because the sin is coming from the pastor, and the sin is coming from this African American black woman. And in the white community, the sin is coming from their pastor and some of their women in their congregation. Because when it comes to American women in general, this modern day American woman has been ingrained in feminism. They've been ingrained in government because they think the government owes them. They've been ingrained with bullshit education, private sector jobs that they got Because if they didn't get the job, regardless of being qualified or not, at the end of the day, the company would be sued. And it's also a tax write-off for companies to hire women. And then again, you got to look at the religion. The religion that a number of these women have learned, they don't practice it. And I'm not saying that everybody who goes to church is bad. But I'm telling you, there are a number of church women out here who hide under that religion so they can have an excuse to do what they want to do. Because really, they don't care about God. They don't care about that Bible. It's only a place for them to hide when they get caught sinning. But they're going to tell me about sinning. But a number of these women who go to church, particularly African American women, yeah, they dress up looking good, and they act as if their pussy is gold. But again, if you drive up in a nice car, you have a suit on, you can bump off one of these chicks because they're freaky as hell. And I know they're freaky as hell. They're not hard to get, and you can get one in each state if you want. These women aren't as religious as you think they are. But they led you to believe because they go to church and listen to a pastor speak every Sunday and they pay their tithes that they're religious, that they're better than you. No, they're not better than you. They're actually worse than you. They need church to make them feel good because they don't feel good about themselves. But each time they go to church, they're trying to wash away what they did when they didn't have to do it. You have a number of these church women who had children from 2 or 3 or 4 different men, and they still think they're worth something. And see, being a Christian doesn't mean anything. It's just like having a good job. If you've been a baby's mama, whether you make $100,000 a year or $20,000 a year, and you have a PhD or you don't have a PhD, at the end of the day, I still look at you as a baby's mama because you made poor decisions. And when I talk about baby mamas, I look at what type of men you slept with. And a number of these church women, they don't sleep with good men. They sleep with poor men because they don't want good men. And that's in all races. And this American system has really corrupted women of all races. And see, I'm not trying to attack the Christian women for the fact that they've made mistakes in the past. What I am doing is going after them because they act self-righteous, narcissistic, holier than thou, judgmental. And in the 10 Commandments, does that say now thou shalt not judge? They're hypocritical. They don't have a leg to stand on. And they can preach that Bible day in and day out. But at the end of the day, a number of your church women are some of your most ratchet women out there. But the difference is, they hide under that church. And you have a number of them who act just like men. I have a sweet chocolate that I know who's a subscriber of mine. She had told me some women that she knew went to church. And I believe they were on the bus. And when they got out of church, they got to drinking, they got loud. I'm saying they went to church. So that church doesn't mean anything. And what a number of these Christian women must understand, they're human too. They get horny just like I get horny. But what they try to do, they try to throw that Bible at somebody like me or other red pill or MGTOW men. And let me clarify something while I'm on this topic. I'm talking about today's women, modern day women. But it's not just the women. These pastors are pimps in the pulpit because it's these pastors that are asking for their money. And the funny thing about it, it used to be church was a place for everyone to assemble during the civil rights because that was the central place where you can plot a strategy to where you're going to set up camp and then march. But since government took men out of the picture, what you see, particularly in black churches, is nothing but black women. Now, in white churches, you see families, but they got their problems as well. Church, period, has its problems. But in the African American community, church is a big failure. We talk about everything else, but that lone institution that's supposed to help everybody has done nothing for African Americans. You have politicians who are going into these African American churches asking for African American votes. And you know, as a pastor, you're allowing politicians to come into your church during election time so they can get more money from your congregation, that your congregation works hard to give to you, and then you give it to some politician, a Democratic politician? Because you notice I said Democratic politicians. You don't see too many Republican politicians walking up into an African American church. No, it's Democratic politicians. And see, with a number of these church women, particularly in the African American community, they all vote the same way. They all talk the same way. And if you look at it, it's nothing but an institution full of gossip. Trust me, these church women are fucking and sucking. Don't believe the hype that they're innocent. And they're teaching their daughters to do the same thing. And the black church has also embraced homosexuality, have a number of gay pastors out here. And you look at your men. Most of the men that I see today who go to church are sweet. And when it comes to God, homosexuality is supposed to be an abomination. Now, I'm not criticizing homosexuals. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy that I see from these Christian women and these pastors who attend these, quote, monuments of failure. And when it comes to going to church, you have to ask yourself when you're dealing with a church woman, what are you getting out of church? Ask one of these church women, what are they getting out of it? I mean, they're going every day, because some of them go every day. They have a service. Some of them go all day. You're going all day on a Sunday for the same God. And then you're going during the week to Bible study. You're going for choir practice. What are you getting out of it? You're getting the same thing next Sunday that you got the previous Sunday. You're throwing your money away to an institution that doesn't teach you anything about family. It doesn't teach you anything about the hierarchy, God, man, woman, and child. It doesn't teach you to respect your man or respect other women. All this church is doing is creating more and more foul behavior. And if you look at the culture, this culture is going more and more left instead of right. Churches used to be traditional. When I was growing up, it was great to go to church. But in the last 20 to 30 years, church has gone more and more to the left. And the women have gone left right along with the church. But yet, they tell you they're reborn again virgins. They tell you after they've already had 2 and 3 babies by different men that they're not going to have sex until they're married. Heck, you're that beat up car. Why are you telling me after you had children by 2 and 3 different men, or even by 1 different man out of wedlock, that you are worth the same as a virgin when you're not? And then you expect the man to wine you and dine you and perhaps wife you up. And a number of these Christian women are going to church thinking that God is going to give them a man. And if they don't have a man, they'll tell you, I'm married to God, when they really love that pastor. Because you can see some of these Christian women, when they sit in the front pews, they got their legs wide open, fanning themselves. They really hot down and they want that pastor. Why? Because that pastor is the surrogate husband that they never had, the surrogate father. He's the alpha male, and he's telling the congregation, which is full of women, what they want to hear. And at the end of the day, these same women who go to church come out of church and they have the same ratchet attitude as some of these hood chicks. Because a number of these women who go to church are hood chicks. But again, they hide under the guise of church. And this is what I say, good women, if you got a guy, good guy, who's treating you right, don't worry about the bad women. Because those bad women aren't your competition. And in this day and age, I don't care if the woman has got the credentials out of this world. I don't care how religious she is. Many of them are still feminist. And you have to understand that. Just because they go to church doesn't mean anything. They still don't believe in men leading their households. They still don't believe, well, they do believe they don't need a man. And it's not just in the African American community, it's in other communities, but it's more prevalent in the African American community. And at the end of the day, when it comes to a number of these church women, they're no different than the educated women, and they're no different than the hood chicks. And that black pastor is running the whole charade. And that black pastor doesn't care either. Why? Because he has many women in his congregation. If he gets hot and horny, whether he has a wife or not, and I'm not saying all pastors are like this, but a number of pastors are like this. He's got many women he can fuck around with. He's got many women that are going to go back in his office and suck his dick. Because these black pastors, they're pimps. And when it comes to African American women, your queen, your diva, your modern day queen and diva, comes to disrespecting that black woman, or that black pastor. He wrote the book on how to discredit the black woman. He wrote the book on how to disrespect the black woman. He's worse than Pookie and Ray Ray. But yet, he hides behind that pulpit because he's got the Bible and the microphone and he's telling them what they want to hear. But at the end of the day, these pastors ain't no good either. But you got a number of these women who believe in this pastor. She believes more in that pastor than she does her own man. She would go tell her pastor their relationship problems. She'll disrespect her man and go tell the pastor she disrespected her man. Pastor's not going to say anything. Why? Because she's one of the hoes who go to church every day and worships that pastor. And see, when you have that black pastor, you have that African American woman, they're one and the same. This is why your hoteps, your B1s, they don't talk about that black pastor. Because you talk about that black pastor, you talk about this Christian black woman. And that's not allowed. Because if you talk about that Christian black woman, or any other Christian woman, particularly as a black man, you're not going to get any sex. And that's the big problem. Men are too female-centric. They figure if they tell a female the truth, they're not going to have sex with. In this culture, it's easy to get sex from a female. You don't have to do anything. And you shouldn't be going out on dates with females. You should not be marrying them. You should not be having their children. And at the end of the day, you don't owe this female anything. You shouldn't even give her respect because she doesn't respect herself and she doesn't respect you. And a number of these females at the end of the day, whether they go to church or not, they want to be the man and they want you to be the woman. Why? Because in their minds, they feel they have all the power and they're strong, and they feel you men are weak. And at the end of the day, there's no difference between Christian women and non-Christian women. They're all feminists and hypocrites. So their word doesn't mean anything. And as a man, there's nothing wrong with being a man. Be a red pill man and a MGTOW man. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you want something of a lighter topic, like, share, and subscribe to my Mind of STEM channel. On that channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And you can also check me out every weekend on Blog Talk Radio. I have a call-in number, 215-383-5785. I don't take calls. I do Blog Talk Radio in a commentary format. And if you don't know where any of my channels are, you can catch me on Twitter and Facebook. All the links are at the bottom of each and every one of my videos. And remember, be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. One more thing before I go. I did this video. I was not going after all Christian women. I was talking about this modern day Christian woman, because a lot of these modern day Christian women are feminists. They're misandrists. They tell you they believe in God, but really they don't believe in God. They believe in themselves, but they don't respect themselves, and they don't respect you as a man. And just because they go to church does not mean that they're ratchet. So don't let these women fool you when they go to church. This modern day woman is all the same. She's indoctrinated by feminist Marxism. And that's the conclusion of this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channels. And once again, my name is Leon Jones. Have a good evening. God bless you. I'm out.